Good to see you again. Good to be with you. We've got some new characters for you today. And the first one in this conversation about spiritual experience is Maria, mystical Maria. And she's saying, isn't it wonderful that everybody can have their one-to-one personal spiritual experience of the relationship with God? We don't have to be cowed by traditional authorities or carried away by the current popular enthusiasms, including mine. Wonderful. And Scientific Simon said, well, yes, spiritual experience is great, but you know what? If you do just a bit of research about the world religions in this regard, you find that people in all these religions have experiences that fit the particular religions that they're part of. The religions give them expectations of what they can or should or will experience. And sure enough, they fit into those expectations. Of course, we're talking statistically and to a high degree and so on. But it's very significant to notice the influence on religious experience of such factors. And Evangelist Evans said, but how do you know, Simon, that it's not God speaking to these persons in ways that fit with their culture so that they can understand it? And Philosophical Sophia said, spiritual experience is often a mixed bag, although there are some experiences that people call spiritual or religious. Really, biological, psychological, sociological factors are so much holding sway that to call them spiritual experiences is really a misnomer. And there are some experiences that are so purely revelatory from within or without that the lesser factors play little or no role in the experience. But most spiritual experience has some biopsychological, social component to it, as well as a spiritual component. So discernment really is an evolutionary work in progress here. At that point, Evan came back and said, I don't think it's worth calling any experience spiritual unless the spirit dominates it and truth is what's mainly happening. And at that point, Scientific Simon jumped in again and said, beloveds, truth is many-sided, and there are more or less erroneous versions of it all around. So how can you imagine that you've got any criterion of spiritual truth that you can apply? And Sophia said, no one here is claiming to have any absolute divine criterion that we can apply with our human minds and know for sure about the status of our own experiences, let alone those of other people. And the more different they are from us, the more difficult it may be for us to get an impression. And at this point, Miguel from Colombia comes in. And he said, well, yes, but there are traditional criteria that would be foolish to ignore. And these tests of spiritual experience, alleged spiritual experience, do not individually or in tandem form an absolute, but we do well to bear in mind scripture and tradition and the judgment of the community. In religion after religion, these factors are appealed to. And there's something to that that we should not forget. And even more, we should not forget the fruits of the Spirit in the lives of those who talk about these experiences. Then Simon spoke again. But what about the people who do not report any spiritual experience? What should we say about them? Are they simply lost forever? And Evan said, of course they're not lost forever. They may simply have forgotten something that happened in early childhood, or this or that may have made the memory foggy in their mind. They may have put on the brakes and gone somewhere else. There are all kinds of factors. What's essential to not being lost is faith. And faith, when it's wholehearted, is a kind of spiritual experience. And so is that wonderful feeling, that deep down good feeling that you get inside when you make a great decision or do something really importantly good for someone else. There are many varieties of genuine experience, and they don't all fall in the category of mysticism. Just garden variety, prayer, worship, service, these count. There's an aura about the word spiritual experience that misleads many people into counting themselves out. Sophia came in again at this point and she says, well, and people are just different. You know, people come in different flavors. There's a body of research that indicates that women, statistically speaking, or on average, whatever that's going to mean, ask the psychologist about that. Simon, help us. But that women score higher than men on tests that are designed to measure spirituality. And there are other factors that influence our capacity for spiritual experience. And Evan came in and said at this point, whatever genetic deficiencies or any other factors in life that amount to a disadvantage for our ability to respond to spiritual stimuli, I feel confident that those inequalities will be gloriously made right in the life to come. At this point, Maria came in and said, I love you all. And I have listened to you all and heard you. And I agree with the heart of everything each of you has said. And I sympathize with the spirit of the questions that have been raised. And I also reaffirm the thrilling truth that every human being personality has the capacity for spiritual experience, for that individual one-to-one personal relationship with God, however diverse it may be, to whatever degree, however affected by culture. It's there, it's real. Let's celebrate that. And at this point, Ali from Iran began clapping, and all the others joined in clapping. Thank you, Maria. Your truth that you contributed is the most important of all in this conversation.